When you get a bad review on Airbnb, it absolutely sucks, especially because sometimes you get a negative review because of something that you need to change or make better, or sometimes you get a negative review because it's a guest that is not going to be happy. Some people are never going to be happy, and there's nothing you can do about that. Some people are trying to be retributive because you enforced a rule, or you enforced a fee or a fine because they broke a rule. But there's two ways we're going to break down and look at negative reviews in this video. Number one, is it a legitimate negative review? If you receive a legitimate negative review or less than 5-star review, because basically, let's be honest, if you have a review that's less than 5 stars, a 4-star review, I don't look at that as a good review. Somebody might think 4 stars is okay, but really when guests are looking, a 4-star review is less than ideal. So if you have a legitimate less than 5-star review, you need to look at it of what can I correct, what can I change, what can I improve, but also how you respond to that review is an indication to future guests of what type of a host you are. So sometimes you get a less than ideal review and it's not worth responding to. You are not going to get any fruit out of leaving a message. It is amazing if you go look at Airbnb profiles and you look at reviews and the saucy responses that some hosts give back to guests, that does not make the host look good. If you get a negative review, you can either choose to let it go. I've had negative reviews that are things that are just so ridiculous that there's no reason to respond, and anything I'm going to respond is going to be emotional and not a smart response to show to future guests. But you can respond. Say you get a negative review about something that you fixed or you repaired. Make sure to leave a response and leave a neutral business-like response, because any future guest sees, hey, this person complained. Your response says, hey, thanks for your feedback. However you want to respond, we have addressed it by doing the following. So you can say how you have fixed and repaired or improved those items. So future guests can see, oh, well, maybe this person complained. However, the host has addressed it and responded. The other thing, if you're responding in a neutral manner versus getting real saucy and emotional, that's a good indication to future guests that you're going to be a reasonable host. If I was going to stay in an Airbnb and someone left reasonable feedback and a host got on there and left an angry or a really emotional response, I would be kind of concerned, like, hey, if I stay here, is this host going to be hard to deal with? Is this not a very professional or business-like host? So when I get a review, if I'm thinking about the response that I want to leave, usually I write out a response that's Emily's emotional response, and then I don't post it. And then I think about the next day, once I'm not in a rash state of mind, do I need to leave a review? Is it going to be beneficial for future guests and for me as a host to leave a review to say, hey, actually, for instance, I had a guest that left a negative review that we have an outlet that's on a light switch in one of our Airbnbs, and you have to flip the switch for the outlet to work. We put that in the check-in instructions. We remind guests right before they get there, and the lady left a review and said that we had electrical problems and an outlet didn't work. She just hadn't read the instructions. And so it would be beneficial for me to say, hey, just for future guests or in response, like we told you that before you checked in, we gave you the instructions. Unfortunately, you didn't read the check-in instructions, not emotionally, but just so people know when they get there, there's not actually an electrical problem. So things like that. I've seen reviews where people leave a review and then the host has this like word vomit of rage. And I'm like, man, that host is crazy. That doesn't make that host or that Airbnb look good. So think before you leave your response. And if you emotionally need to make a response, write it out, light it on fire, throw it away to make yourself feel better, great. But you responding like a psychopath is not going to make you look better to any future guests. So think of that in your responses and how are you answering that the problems have been addressed if it's a legitimate review for future guests. Now, if you get a negative review and it's not legit, say somebody lies about something, they make up a story. I've heard horror stories on some of the Airbnb pages I'm on. Then you can get a hold of Airbnb if the review is false. Now, sometimes it's a he said, she said, and there's not a lot you can do. So all you could do is respond and say, hey, here's what actually happened. Again, neutral, because if you get emotional, that's not going to make people more likely to believe your side of the story. Neutral, professional, business-like. So if you need to take a minute before you leave the response on there, do it. Don't leave a saucy response. But if something's BS and you actually can get Airbnb to remove it, you can contact their support and you can say, hey, here's whatever documentation you might have. Hopefully you have something to say this wasn't true or this wasn't reasonable, and ask Airbnb to remove it. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But what I've heard from people that have had really tumultuous experiences is some people can call a couple times. One person that they talk to with support won't remove it, but after they call and talk to a handful of people, they can get to somebody that's helpful and will remove the review. So if somebody will not remove a review you're disputing, don't give up with one Airbnb contact. You may be able to call a handful of times and get somebody that's willing to help you. Again, if you are level-headed and neutral when you call, you're a lot likely to go farther because it seems like, again, I'm addressing this from a business perspective. This is true. This is false. This isn't me being nasty and emotionally reactive, and that will get you much farther. Now, the last thing is sometimes you will get a review that is from somebody. We all know and have those people in our life that will never be happy. They're never satisfied. No matter what you do, it's never good enough. They're mad about something or they're not happy about something. Sometimes those people are going to be your guests and there's nothing you can do. From somebody who is a people pleaser and I catastrophize and I think, well, if I get bad reviews, it's going to ruin my business and nobody's going to stay here and then I'm going to lose my house and I'm going to lose everything. My brain will go through this spiral. Here's a tip I heard in a podcast the other day that was super, super mind-blowing for me. It was a Layla Hermosi podcast, and she was talking about things that are conditions of business. In your business, you have to pick your battles. You have to pick the things that are worth putting money, time, and energy into repairing, and things that are just conditions of business. They are what they are, and there's nothing you can do about them. I have had a handful of guests, and I'm sure if you've had Airbnbs for any amount of time, you have had one, and if not, you will soon, that no matter how great your place is, no matter how nice your property is, nothing will ever be good enough. And some people just have that personality. There's nothing you can do about that. There is no reason in me putting money, time, and energy into trying to change things that are unchangeable because you just can't. It is a condition of business that people are going to leave you reviews sometimes that are unreasonably negative, and there's nothing you can do about it because it's just their perception, because of their personality. And so her little tip in that podcast of looking at that like a condition of business for me was like, wow. And so I get negative reviews sometimes. I had a guy that just stayed, and mind you, the place he stayed was a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, small house in a small town in Wyoming. We're like a pass-through town. We're not a resort town. We're not a destination town. People are usually passing through on I-80 on the way to somewhere else. My place is $69 a night. And it's nice. It's nice for what you pay. This guy stayed there and he left me an overall 5-star review, but on location, he left me a 3-star review because he said the surroundings were bland. And then he left me a 3-star review on value. My place is a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom place for $69 a night. Like, I don't know. And I leave snacks and I leave water and I have Wi-Fi. I mean, I leave goodies. Like, I'm pretty much doing all you can for the absolute minimum cost that you can. And that guy would never be happy no matter what I did there. I don't know what his expectation was, but I don't think there's anything I could have done to change it to give that man what he needed to be able to give me a 5-star review. I could dwell on it. Last night I saw that review and I was really frustrated. So what I did was I wrote a review or a response to him and I didn't post it, but I got it out of my system. And then I went, Emily, you can't dwell on this. There's nothing you can change. People like him are a condition of business. You have 69 other 5-star reviews where people talk about how great your place is and how great of a host you are and how they'd love to come back. And there are things and people you can't control. And as hard as it is, you have to just let it roll off your back.